What's happening, guys? Dan Debenham here. In this video we're going to look at how we take a fairly static-ish looking shot and we just add something to it, which basically is the ramped zoom effect. So I'm going to show you how to do that in Premiere Pro. It's very quick. This is a no-nonsense tutorial. So let's get into Premiere Pro and have a look how we do it. Great, so we've got our clip into Premiere Pro, so let's play it through and let's get this effect started. So what we're going to do is have a look through the clip now, and we're just going to look for a place where we think that the effect should start. Now we don't want it to start at the beginning because that's just, why would we do that? And we also don't want to start it at the end because there'll be no time for the effect to actually complete. So we're looking for somewhere in the center or somewhere where it's appropriate for that to occur. Now I noticed she looked up twice at the camera, and I think the second time is probably the place where we want to do the zoom effect. So that's time 1 and that's time 2, and that isn't a bad place to actually start it. So let's go back. I'm using the left arrow key to go back frame by frame here, and I'm just going to bring it forward till her head stops moving around about there. So I think about there. I think that's a cool place to start it. So first things first, let's go to the effects tab up at the top, and then we're going to go across to the effects search bar. I'm going to type in transform, and then we're going to pick transform, and we're going to drag it and drop it onto our clip. That's going to bring up our effects controls, and it's going to show us the transform options at the bottom of the effects. So we know we want it to start at this point here, so I'm going to add a keyframe here with this little stopwatch to scale, and I'm also going to add one to position, because once I've scaled it up, I'm going to need to reframe it so that it's actually on her face, because obviously if I scale it up it might cut off some of her head or whatever. So we know we're going to go there, and we want it to be full effect once she started moving. So I'm going to hit shift and I'm going to hit right arrow 4 times. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now that's given me sort of 20 frames between this set of keyframes and a new set. So I'm going to click on these 2 little diamonds here, and I'm going to add another set of keyframes in there. I'm just going to zoom into these so we can see them a little bit better. So this is where the end of the zoom is going to happen. This is the beginning and this is the end. So the end, we want her to be sort of, if we said 300, because that's 327, if we said 300 and then I dropped it down so that its face is there, like so. So we've got her in this sort of rule of thirds, and we've got her eyes coming across here. We've got her face in this sort of rule of thirds section here, which is pretty cool. That's quite a nice happy accident. So what we've got now is we've got a zoom in. As you can see, it just zooms in from full to there. But what we actually want to do is we want to do some more stuff to this to make it look a little bit more realistic, and that's the reason why we've used the transform tool, and we've not just used position and scale. We've come down here because transform tool allows you to mess with the shutter angle and add a little bit of motion blur into these things. So let's have a look. Let's add a keyframe in here. So let's go and add a keyframe in here, and let's add a keyframe in here, like so. Let's add another keyframe in here, and let's change the shutter angle to say 190. So what do we get from that? Now we get a little bit of motion blur there, don't we? But we might want a little bit more. So let's go up to 200. And let's do that there. So now what we get is we get a tiny bit of motion blur. And it's not meant to be like super blurry. It's meant to show the motion of the camera moving forward, or the lens moving forward. It's almost like a swoosh sort of effect. So you can see if I if I go forward frame by frame, you can see that it's adding a bit of motion blur in around the edges as it zooms in, and it's just giving that effect that there is a little bit of something going off. But we're not all done just yet. What we need to do also is we need to just mess with this linear. It's quite linear when we're doing the zoom in and zoom out. So what we're going to do is we're going to go to scale, and we're going to have a look. Now you can see the linear mark there. You can see how it's sort of making its way straight from this size straight up to this size, and you can see as that's your keyframes there, and that's the path that it's going to take. But what we're going to do is alter that path a little bit. We just want to make sure that it does something slightly different. So we're going to right click on this, and we're going to ease it out, and we're going to right click on this one, and we're going to ease it in, and that's going to give us the ability to change the speed at which that happens. So what I think we should do is perhaps bring it so that it's quite fast at the beginning, or should we make it the other way? Should we do the other way so that it takes a little bit of time to speed up to it? So it does that as it does, and then what we need to do there obviously is we need to do the same thing with these two keyframes as well, and we need to make sure that they are also, the position is also a similar sort of affair to make sure it's a similar sort of affair to the scale in, and that way that stops us getting that sort of bob effect that we just got, where you saw the back of the video, effectively the back of the timeline, and it just now automatically zooms in with a nice sort of ramp effect. So it's ramped up from the slowest to the fastest, as you can see here, and you can see it moves along, then it goes whoosh, and it's back up to the top. So it's almost like a little mountain, a little peak. And we want to keep the velocity at 0, so because we don't want to make any changes to the way that it moves, we want it to stay on that track. We don't want it to sort of tinker upwards or downwards. We just want it to move in a nice smooth fashion, and we want it to gradually get to its full speed and then instantly drop off. So you've got a gradual acceleration and then an instant drop off to 0, and that gives you that sort of pop in effect. So it just gives a little bit more of an artistic look to an otherwise fairly static shot. Allows us to focus on something in that shot that we want the viewer to focus on, or to sort of look at that particular time, but in a more artistic way than, say, just a regular jump cut. So with that, I hope you did find it useful, and I will see you guys in the next one. Peace!